We are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Remember, we are streaming this live for you on Facebook and on YouTube. Plus, we appreciate your comments on social media at KBC Channel 1. Continue talking to us. Tell us what you think about some of the topics we are discussing this morning, and forward your questions to the panel and my guests as we continue with this particular program. Now, we've shifted gears a little bit, and I'm hosting Member of Parliament for Saku Constituency, Mheshimiwa Rosso Dido Ali. Thank you so much for creating time for us this morning.
Thank you, Safin.
Yes, a lot is happening in our country, and that is what we want to engage you on. I'd like to start straight away with the revenue allocation formula. I remember the last time you were here, we picked up, we started this conversation, and there were quite a number of issues that were still pending. Still,
Yes.
we were waiting for Senate to agree. But, you know, it has developed, it has taken a different twist. And we will be talking about that in a bit. But just taking our viewers back on what has happened in the recent few days, the passing of this county revenue formula is proving to be a tall order still. And the latest is that the chair of the Council of Governors, Mheshimiwa Wycliffe Oparanya, who is the chair of the Council of Governors, said that, you know, they are very discontented as governors on how Senate has failed to build a consensus on the third generation formula. And what is the bone of contention and the key issue here is that the counties are now lamenting over what they term as something that has paralyzed service delivery at the county level. And Wycliffe Oparanya was actually saying that currently, as we speak, there are some counties that cannot even pay salaries to their workers. Quite an unfortunate scenario there, Mheshimiwa. Does it mean that there is no other alternative, no other way out? The National Treasury is not even in a position to do something as we wait for this stalemate to come to a conclusion?
Thank you very much, Safin. First of all, we were here on 29th of July.
Wow.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes,
You're very specific.
I remember very well.
Yes.
I think on that day, one thing we said is the Senate must build a consensus. The idea of being given a formula that is subjective, that is a straitjacket, it will not fly at the end of the day. But also the top guns in politics in this country, they gave views, albeit divergent, but they gave good views that let us go for a win-win thing. So 18 counties that some of them are going to lose to the tune of 2 billion.
Your county
Marsabit
being one of them.
One of them. So many of us actually are distraught with what is happening. But for once, I will not blame the Senate. I will blame the Jubilee administration.
And it keeps
Yes.
taking different shapes.
Yes.
How now? How now that
The
you're blaming this?
the reason why I want to believe that Jubilee is the one that's not doing the right thing is we needed a Jubilee PG to say, hey, we have this problem as the governing party of this country. What is the way forward? And then, you know, now the problem we also have is there's no opposition and there appears to be no government. Everybody is trying to wade into this thing. So the president is the symbol of unity in this country. When something like the revenue allocation is going to divide this country down the stream, then he must come up, call in the right people, and say, hey, I want answers to this thing. Why haven't we had this problem since 2013? And you know, this is the third generation formula. Why didn't we have problem in the first one? Why not in the second one? Yes.
Aren't we risking taking a political route then? Because if we are to put our hopes on a consensus or some sort of an agreement among leaders or members of a particular political party, are we not making this whole conversation political and allowing...
You know, a county that has a budget of 6 billion, losing 2 billion, it means they have lost a third of their budget. A county that has already made its budget and it is being given 1.5 billion, that is a massive increase. So what even DP Ruto the other day he was saying, let us go for a win-win formula. Let whoever is losing not lose that much, and whoever is gaining not gain colossal amount, so that the gap can be managed. But you know, I can see a county like Marsabit, if they lose 2 billion, it means there will be no development. A county like Isiolo, if it loses 800 million, it will not have any development budget. The counties of Northeastern, Mandera, Garissa, Wajir, they are going to lose 2 billion each. That is a massive amount for those counties in terms of development, in terms of employment, for many reasons. So that is why we are saying, hey, this thing is not flying. Can we even go back to what is Generation 2 formula? And then from there, we take time to rejig these numbers. But for now, in the Senate, I would understand there is a stalemate. The side that is losing, it's not going to give way. The side that is gaining, also, this is manna from heaven. They are not going to say, okay, take it back. This is the moment, of course.
Right now, as the Speaker, 12-member Senate committee was formed to determine the way forward on this particular matter. But still, we are yet to get the way forward. Do you think the delay or the duration this is taking could be deliberate, or there is just something that seems to be a bone of contention, or is it just a complex subject that has to take time? What is happening? Because this is what Kenyans do not understand. How can senators sit for so many sessions and not agree, and still not agree within this particular committee? What is happening from what you can read?
I think we can read many things in this. Personally, coming from Marsabit and from a county that is way behind many others, a county that in the listing of the poverty index, we could be around number 40, 42. We feel that there's a serious mischief in revenue allocation thing, because if there's no mischief, by now we'll be seeing the white smoke. But there are people maybe who are buying time, maybe to make a decision, to buy into some politics of bargaining politics. So there's more than that meets the eye. And that is why from when they began sitting, and I think this is way back in April, May, then that by now we don't have answers or there is no consensus, then surely something is wrong. It is not normal.
It's not adding up. Let's look at this new formula. Do you think it is supporting devolution or undermining it? Where do you borrow from?
I think the beauty of our Constitution 2010, really, many good issues aside, is devolution. For those counties who have not been getting much from the center, at least now there's resources that they can plan with. There's resources that they can help their people with in terms of health, education, water, sanitation, infrastructure. There are many things that are coming with devolution. But in the new formula, what basically is saying, it doesn't say in the Quran, but I am told it is said in the Bible, that give more to those who have more. But I think we need, as a country, to move with both Quran and the Bible, that those who don't have much, they must be given more, so that they can catch up with those who don't have. So the reason why those of us in the 18 counties are not going to support this formula now and even in the future, is that take development everywhere in this country. We are not saying stop Kiambu to develop, stop Kirinyaga to develop, or stop Wasungishu to develop. But we say that, why can't we even spread population? Population will follow development. Why can't we have good hospitals everywhere? Why don't we have good schools everywhere? Why don't we have interconnected infrastructure everywhere? So that Kenyans can move from Nyanza to Mandera. Kenyans can move from Mombasa to Marsabit, so that this country is open up. But the idea of the third generation formula is to still have what the French used to say in West Africa, the good Kenya and the useless Kenya. And in the 21st century, that it should not be where we should be heading.
So how do we unlock this deadlock just to ensure that we get a solution? If you're to give advice or your opinion on how to come out of this stalemate, what would that answer be?
I think if people are to listen to some of us, we put the formula aside for now to say that what is in this basket? And then we say that the county that is going to gain more should not gain more than even 400 million. The county that will lose a lot should not lose more than 400 million. Although really in the evolution terms, that is a lot of money, but you are trying to heal the gaps so that whoever was getting 1.5 billion gets 400, and whoever was getting maybe 600-700 million gets 200, 150 million. So that as we go forward, then we say that even within the budget, and I like what the former Attorney General, Honorable Amos Wako, said. We are fighting over 15% of the national budget, what goes to devolution. What happens to the rest of 85%? We know there's what goes to defense and national security, what goes to national treasury and foreign affairs, and national intelligence service. Those are the constituent organs that runs the country, and that remains in the center. But people are saying health is devolved, agriculture is devolved, water is devolved. Why don't we put more resources back in devolution so that we are going to say that this year the counties that are receiving 7 billion, 10 billion are not going to lose anything. But if there is going to be that increment, the one that will grow to 12 billion, there'll be enough money in the following budget.
Okay. We are having this conversation and looking at what emotions and opinions it is eliciting currently. There's a story we did here on KBC about some young people in Kiambu County who actually were calling for accountability. This came after the Council of Governors threatened that counties could close down because of the stalemate that is currently going on. But for them, they were saying before that happens, counties should actually be accountable for what they have received already. Instead of asking for more funds, tell us, how have you spent the ones that you have been receiving? Have we invested in accountability mechanisms in this country? Are we focusing on that part of the funding of counties?
Thank you very much. I think those young people, some of it is a clip on the social media. I think their request or what they are asking for is genuine and also reasonable. Because if you are going to ask for more, somebody will say, what are you already doing with what you have? You remember in the last financial year, the county said, and the Senate said, they told the National Assembly, give the counties more. But the president came out clearly and said, I'm sorry, I don't have that money. Can you also just tell me what you are doing with what you have? So the issue of accountability is what the counties, even we, as members of parliament, our CDFs, we cannot run away from. Because Kenyans would like to know, where does this shilling goes? Because if there's no accountability, then this pilferage, misuse, theft, corruption, and all this will get anchored. And that is why the youth from, I think, from Nyandarua and Kiambu and other places were saying, don't give us money from Turkana or from the Somalis in Mandera, and yet you are not telling us what you have done with what we already have. For those young people is a genuine concern. But even for us as leaders, today as we work the budget making process in Kenya has gone through so many forms. We used to have the trickle budget of growing the budget every year by 10%. Then the budget was moved from top down to bottom up. Then the program-based budget is what Kenya is currently doing. So everybody is asking, before you tell us the counties have closed down, then is to say, where is the money? Where has this money been going? But before I finish that point, the critical issues that we keep on hearing from the counties is the way funds are being disbursed. The counties are being given funds every month, which in terms of planning, really, that is a tall order, that you cannot plan when you don't have your budget. Although the National Treasury is not able to disburse all the county funds at once, like what used to happen maybe in the last parliament. But this time around, they must work in such a way that the monies to the counties should go every quarter, maybe every 4 months, every 3 months, so that at least the counties also can have this insulated planning, so that they cannot fail to pay their workers. They should not pay their contractors. As it were, I think what the Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya is saying, that we do not have money because money is not coming from the National Treasury. Yes.
All right. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about, I know this conversation will pick it up because it's developing and still the stalemate is going on. But I want us to talk about the ongoing clamor for constitutional change. Just the other day we marked 10 years after the promulgation of the Constitution, and what I'd like to know from various people that I'm interacting with right now is whether we should even be having this conversation. Is the push for changing the Constitution justified from where you sit?
Thank you so much. 10 years is a good time to reflect on a constitution. I am not a lawyer myself, but I'm an educated gentleman, and I have also traveled many countries, and I have lived in several of the developed world. Changing the constitution should not be at the behest of we individual politicians, that we want this or we want that. The Constitution is a living document that at some point in time it must be amended or it must be enhanced in its current form. If you listen to the US, about the US Constitution, where we learn a lot, there's this talk about the black empowerment or the people of color. It is called the 14th Amendment. You know, the 14th Amendment is what they even talk about even today. It means there have not been 100 amendments. They have had control amendment to their constitution. That where does it pinch? There is the talk also about that the winner takes it all. Every constitution in the world, the winner will take it all. There is the ruling party or ruling parties because a group of parties will come together to form the government.
Yeah.
But there will be also a coalition that will be in the opposition. Nobody in Kenya should be telling us that, oh, you know, you need to look after the losing side. The losing side.
There's no way we can win. Like everybody can win.
Absolutely, absolutely. What we have borrowed time immemorial from the Westminster Constitution, where we got our independence from them in 1963. The Westminster Constitution, even today, there's not much that has changed. In the British Parliament or the House of Commons, that is where the ministers and the MPs sit. That is where you have the opposition and the ruling party. There is no way you are going to say, let Labour and Conservative be just like one and each other.
But, you know, the goal was to address the issue of inclusion, lack of inclusion in leadership. Some people felt left out in the leadership of this particular country. Some communities felt that for centuries, for years, they have been left out. They don't feel like they're part of the leadership of this country. Was that the way to go about it, or would you propose a different alternative to addressing the lack of inclusion in governance?
You know, in the House of Commons, today the Conservatives is the ruling party. Then you have Labour. Labour has a replica of what is in government. They have a shadow government. Shadow government means if anything happens, if there's a constitutional crisis, the opposition can take over. The opposition is actually funded by the center. But those in the Conservative, they cannot cede any ground to Labour which they are not constitutionally entitled, or which the monarch does not say, we want to give the opposition this or that. Because the Constitution is very clear. This thing of inclusion, you know, we are not fools. Some of us, we come from small communities. People are not thinking when they are talking about inclusion, they are not talking about small communities. They are talking about the big communities. Oh, if a Kikuyu becomes the president, somebody, the other bigger tribe will have a prime minister, the other bigger tribe will have a deputy prime minister, and all that kind of good things. What we must begin to understand and deeply reflect, will Kenya, first of all, there's this huge funding for the executive in this country and the top brass. The salary that I am paid as a member of parliament, if somebody is being paid 20,000 shilling, you can imagine that 651,000 divided by 20. How many young people, even take for granted that these are graduates, how many of them will be employed? So
that's huge.
So if a member of parliament is paid that amount, how much will a prime minister or a deputy prime minister, or if there will be a first vice president, a second vice president, how much amount of money they will be paid? Leave alone other trappings of power. They must be housed. They must be given so many fuel guzzlers. They must have this coterie of security escort. That is massive on the Kenyan taxpayer. What we must say, yes, what we must say is that do Kenyans need more than a president and a vice president? Secondly, in the construction of the cabinet, in the construction of permanent principal secretaries, are all Kenyans included, irrespective of where a certain region voted, that they must be given a minister, they must be given permanent secretaries, they must be given ambassadors, Because at the end of it, it is these individual taxpayers who put that government in place to run. But what politicians are lying to Kenyans is that there is this thing of inclusion, that Kenya is going to be one. Even if we are going to have a prime minister and 10 deputy prime ministers, there will be always that odd guy who say, we have been left out.
So still we will not have solved the problem of inclusion.
Absolutely.
All right. Even as we are having this conversation, what do you think if we are to go the direction of changing the constitution, if these issues are included in this new constitution, they will address the challenges that are currently being faced in marginalized areas? What is it that you'd bring on the table as your agenda for this constitutional change?
Thank you very much. I think for the marginalized areas, or what I would almost call the small communities, we are not after who is the president of Kenya. But I think our situation can be solved by having national parties, parties that I can climb to become even the party leader, parties that Rosso coming from Marsabit will have a say, will have a voice. As it is today, parties are constructed by individuals, and the people who have a say are those ones who constructed the party. And the majoritarian, the problem we are looking at government, actually parties have more problem than the government themselves. Because if it is ODM, more and more it is about the law. Today, if you are talking about Jubilee, it's more about the Kikuyus and the Kalenjin. I belong to Jubilee, but that is what I see it. And I'm not afraid to tell anybody that even in their structure of the executive, ask them how many Somalis are there, how many Borans are there, how many Turkanas are there. They will not be able to tell you.
So it should start from the political parties.
Yes. And that is how the structure in the executive can be assisted. But if you are not doing right, even as parties, to an extent, there's no way you are going to tell us that this government is poorly structured, that it is not all inclusive. Are your parties inclusive? Is the way you are conducting your party affairs, does it reach every part of this country? In the old days, as we grew up, we found this thing called KANU. It is a behemoth of a party. Even at the village level, you know that that village elder is the chairman of KANU. That party will reach everywhere. That when the delegation comes, then you find that, yes, so-and-so is the chairman, so-and-so is the vice chair. It had that picture of what Kenya is. But the parties that are clamoring for constitutional change, if it is ODM, it is Western. If it is Jubilee, Central and Rift Valley. All other parties are maybe, if it is Wiper, it is Ukambani. Others are just appendages who are brought on board for convenience.
Well said. But then I'll take you back to the question I asked you earlier. I'm really interested in knowing, because yes, we want to address the issue of even lack of inclusion, and you're giving us very good examples on how we can go about that, begin at the party level. What other issues would you want addressed representing the small communities? Because if the constitution is to be changed, it's all about solving the problems that we're facing as a country. So what is it that you would advocate for as a representative of the small communities?
I think the first thing is we must strengthen devolution. That the resources which go to those entities called counties, those resources need to be enhanced. And subjectively, the government from the center should look at what does the entity called Turkana County, what does it lack? If it lacks health, then the center must invest vigorously in that sector. If it is Marsabit, if the issue of Marsabit from the center, subjectively they find it is water and infrastructure, that is where they must put that resources. The first thing is really, I want to say, is about embellishing devolution. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it is the issue of representation. You know, when you are constructing the cabinet, when you are constructing this government, the minorities must be seeked out. They must be sought to say, who is the best person to represent this group of minorities? So that when you see the Kenyan cabinet, then it reflects the face of Kenya. Then in terms of even the executive, that is the people who really work at the ministerial level, at parastatals in terms of CEOs, the chairman, so that if there are 20 slots, these 20 slots will be based on equity, but even the minorities must be represented.
Okay. As we are concluding that part of our conversation, I'd just like you to give us a general observation on how the BBI process has been driven so far. What is, your biggest hit or a miss in how this process has been driven in the country?
I think the BBI, initially, the thought was good. That when the president said, I want to heal the rift that has been created by the sort of serious contestation in our election, it has created a rift in this country. And he said, I want to heal those wounds. I want to try and bridge the gap. Insofar as that is concerned, it is good. What was presented in Bomas, because we were there, I think is a good thing. But as the committee on BBI went again to dig deeper into this document, mm-hmm. we hear a lot of things. At this point in time, I would say it is just speculative. Mm-hmm. And the worry for some of us, and that is why today I will not say if I am going to tell my people to reject the BBI or to accept it, is I'm told among the issues that are being canvassed in the BBI is the revenue allocation formula. The issue of population versus geography. Mm-hmm. If that thing is going to come, take it from me, myself and my constituents, and many people like me, people who come from the regions that I represent. Although I come from Marsabit, can represent the people of the Tana, the people of Wajir Mandera, the people of Turkana, we are going to say no.
But these are just speculations, though.
Yes.
We await the contents of the final proposal to be presented to President Uhuru Kenyatta if he hasn't received it yet. We do not know what came forth after the validation hearing. So let's, leave that matter to rest for now, but we'll be picking it up as it continues to develop. As we are just about to wrap up this conversation, and this is in the interest of those who are watching you from your constituency and from the region where you come from, in Marsabit County, what we've witnessed is a very unfortunate security situation, killings of people. I'm talking about livestock herders, women, children, school-going children. In June, there were quite a number of cases that were reported that targeted students who were killed in mysterious circumstances in various regions. What is the situation, the security situation right now in Marsabit?
Thank you very much. I think almost a month ago or so, I presented a petition in Parliament for the Parliamentary Committee on Administration and National Security to elevate the issue of insecurity in Marsabit to the national level. As you have rightly said, it is something that is giving us almost sleepless night.
Is it getting better or worse?
I wouldn't say it is getting worse, but nothing much appears to happen to bring the situation under control. Because when herders don't feel safe as they had their livestock, when people cannot go about their daily lives without looking over their back, I think is a major impediment to good social living and also to development. Because somebody who is herding their livestock, they are doing development, because once they are able to look after the animals, they sell them in the market, they take their children to school, they are able to be part of an economy. So anybody who will use a particular road or track regularly, they must feel that I am safe so long as I am on this road. So we have been talking to the national administration, both in Nairobi, in Eastern, in Embu, and also in Marsabit, that the idea of thinking that these people hate each other, that's why they are killing each other, I think that cannot be an excuse in the 21st century.
Before we get there, I was about to ask you, as leaders from the region, what have you identified as what could be funding this conflict or these killings? What is it that could be causing this? What are you doing to address those issues?
Yeah, I think one of the issues, because we are pastoral communities, it is about land, that everybody would like this piece of land to graze the animals, to keep them there, that they can put up settlements. So there's this push and pull. Then there's the issue of politics, that politicians would like to have this elevated ego that I am with my people, my people are achieving this or that. And thirdly, I think we have a government that sits on its hands, because not a whole community will organize themselves to go and commit crime. But the few who are doing that, those who are organizing and carrying out crime, must be sought and brought before justice. So we feel that when the government of the day almost feels helpless, that there's nothing they can do, then the citizenry actually feel that maybe there's no government. And really, we cannot have that state of affairs because it's anarchy.
So how then would you rate the progress, that efforts that have been put in place by the security apparatus deployed in the region to sort of contain the situation?
I think so far, because over the last 1 month or so, we have not had any serious incidences. Not 1 month, maybe the last 2 months. Because the last incident we had was sometimes in June. But since then, I think the security apparatus, also the people of Marsabit, they pay tax. And nobody should think that people deserve more security in one part of the country more than the other. And I blame the sort of attitude that is there, that inakuanga kawaida. That kawaida thing, we must get it out of our minds, so that those people who are involved in serial crime of killing people from this place to the other, the government apparatus, the machinery is there. We have the intelligence, the criminal investigation, the regular police, and all kind of structure. Those instruments must be brought to bear.
Okay. Yeah. To eradicate this kawaida, which is not even kawaida,
yes.
Are there plans for getting a lasting solution? What is in the pipeline? Are leaders meeting? What are their resolutions? what is it that is happening? Just to give people hope who are watching you, especially from Saku constituency,
Yes.
that this will come to an end, because that constituency has also suffered.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think people are meeting, and even at the governmental level, they are meeting. But what is really quite frustrating is that that urge to do the right thing, that urge to move forward, maybe there's some element. We see that we are just moving at a snail pace in terms of reacting to situations. But in terms of understanding what is the root cause of the problem, I think solving this thing is about understanding the root cause of the problem, which for me, this is there. But I also think that, yes, we leaders, we have our responsibility. There's much we can influence. But also we need certain support. The instruments of violence, we don't control. That is in the hands of the government. So that the citizenry, it doesn't matter who they are. If they think that they can take the law into their own hands, then the system is able to pick them out. It's just like a murder in an urban area. Nobody will say, oh, murders normally happen here. Nobody says that. Or robbery, it's okay. If that cannot be considered to be okay or normal in urban area, so is what is happening in our area.
It's not normal.
It's not normal.
And we really hope that something will be done and the situation will change, just to save lives and to save the agony and the scare that residents of Marsabit and other parts of that particular region are also facing with regards to the deteriorating state of security in Marsabit County. I was having a sit down with the Member of Parliament for Saku Constituency, Mheshimiwa Major Retired Ali Rosso. Thank you so much for creating time for us. We are now going to be paving way for the Swahili version of the program. Tamrini Nancy Okware will be taking you through that. And now I'll take just a bit of a rest. I'll be coming back for KBC Lunchtime News. My name is Safina Cheng Oma, and our sign language interpreter has been Susan Buku.